Hey guys, welcome to part 17 of my Windows Server 2025 training course. Today we're going to be covering DFSR, so Distributed File System Replication. This is an extension of the previous lesson because you can't have DFSR without DFS. I just wanted to break this into its own separate entity to make it a little easier to know how to set up and go over some troubleshooting as well. So what is DFSR? Stands for Distributed File System Namespaces Replication, as previously noted. It just improves the functionality of DFS. So it's going to allow files to be replicated between servers, which is going to improve your availability and redundancy, which, how is that a bad thing? Everybody needs that in their life. So what are the primary benefits? It's just going to ensure that you don't have a single point of failure with your shares. So what are we going to do in our lab today? We're going to create a new staging drive for our DFSR files. That way they have an isolated place to be staged. This is best practice because you're not going to fill up your primary company share drive or your primary data drive, whatever you've titled it. Having it totally separate, it's also going to allow you to scale up and down much easier if you have more demand of multiple users accessing files where you're having mass replication. And then we're going to create a DFSR replication group for our two shares. We're going to do one for marketing and one for engineering. And finally, we're going to review where to find these logs that are going to assist us with some troubleshooting. Because DFSR is pretty awesome, but there's some pretty weird things that can happen with it, and you need to know where to go if you encounter these issues. So let's hop into the lab. All right, in our lab, we see that we already have stuff open from our previous lesson, which is going to make this a little easier for us. We have our replication tab open on file 1. We also have DFS open on file 2, so we're kind of matching there. But what we're going to do, because we have yet to enable the DFSR replication role, let's go ahead and do that. So expand file and storage services, do DFSR, so DFS replication, next, restart if required, and sure. So let's go ahead and install that. We're going to do the same thing on our other file server. So server manager, add roles and features, next, till we get to file and storage services, and then DFS replication. So next, restart if required, and install. So we're going to let that do its thing, and we'll follow back up as soon as it's done. We're now back with our roles installed. Let's go ahead and close. And let's go to our primary server, GT file 1, and let's set up a new replication group. So we're going to say multi-purpose replication group. That's totally fine. Name of replication group, we're going to call this engineering. Description, just going to be replication group for the engineering share. Our group members are going to be our file 1 and file 2. It'll take just a moment since that server is separate. It's going to take a second to add. And it's going to go through a little check, just verifying that everything is okay with this server before it adds. Since this can take a minute or two, let's pause and resume as soon as it's done. Now that the member has been verified, let's go ahead and click next. So for topology selection, we're just going to say full mesh, which pretty much means that each member is going to replicate with all other members. This is what we want because we want both to be up to date. And bandwidth, since this is just testing, we can go ahead and do full. This is mainly useful if you want to specify a schedule for replication, like if you wanted to schedule a higher bandwidth during after hours, which is very beneficial to do, you can do that. But for testing purposes, and since this is our lab, we're just going to give it full bandwidth. And primary member, we're going to say GT-file1. So this is going to be the authoritative server, and it's also going to be our primary target for now. Folders to replicate. This is going to be the local path to that folder. So we're going to do Z and engineering. And okay. So that's fine. And next, we're going to do the same thing with this guy. We're going to enable, and the local path is going to be Z engineering. And okay. And if you wanted, you could also make this a read-only copy, but typically you don't see that too often unless you have some secure data you're wanting to transfer. So let's do next and create. So it will not begin until configuration is picked up by the members of the replication group. That's fine. It usually doesn't take too long, but on occasion you do have to manually kick this off. There's a little glitch where it can't verify the membership. All right, so cool. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and create our marketing replication group. And just so you know, you can bundle a bunch of folders into one, or some people actually do like the entirety of their company share in a replication group. You can really do either or, but just for our testing, we're going to segregate them. Okay, so replication group for marketing share. Next. First, we're going to add our members. And again, it'll take a moment to verify that separate server, so let's pause and resume as soon as it's done. Sweet, now that our replication group members are good to go, let's go ahead and click next. Full mesh topology, replication group schedule and bandwidth, sure, that's fine. Same setting as before, we have our primary member is file 1, our primary server, folders to replicate. And I pre-populated that a little earlier, so let's just go through the steps again. Let's do marketing. Okay, and next. And the local path of our replicated member, we're going to go ahead and hit enabled. And we're going to do Z marketing. And okay. So we're going to do next, and close. Gives us the same message about replication will not begin until it's picked up with AD. That is okay. And let's close. And let's do a quick check to make sure our membership looks good. So GT file 1, GT file 2 on both. Replicated folders look great. So let's go ahead and check and see if this is picked up yet. If it hasn't, we can force it, and then we'll create our staging drive as well. Okay, so we can go ahead and open Event Viewer. And we're going to expand to Applications and Services Logs. And we're going to have a DFSR section in here. Cool, so we got DFS replication, that looks good. It successfully established an inbound connection. You're going to see these errors. Usually these pop up and they immediately clear themselves. It looks like we established an inbound connection with engineering. And we also established an inbound connection for our marketing replication group. So if you ever have issues with DFSR, definitely look here first. It's going to tell you pretty much everything that you need to know if you want to troubleshoot anything. So let's minimize. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and do our company share in engineering. We're going to create a new file, and we're just going to call this testdocument.txt. So if we go here, look at engineering, there's our testdocument.txt. And if we also look here, we should see that that replicated almost in real time. The smaller your file is, the quicker it's going to replicate naturally. So let's go ahead and just copy and paste. And there they are. We know our replication is working as expected. Last but not least, what we really want to do is we want to go to our settings here, and we're going to see our staging quota is at 4 gigabytes. Let's select our properties here. And for staging, you see that there's this Z Engineering DFSR private staging. By default, it's going to stage your replications on the drive that you configure this with. That's typically not best practice, and mainly because, one, you don't want your main company share drive filling up with data, and two, it helps to isolate it on a totally separate drive. It really helps with performance if people are copying a whole lot, or there's really massive inflections of data coming in at one time. So to do this, we're going to go back to Hyper-V, and we're going to create 2 new drives. We're going to create one on each server. So let's go ahead and do a new hard drive. And we're going to call this, dynamic expand is fine. Let's call it File Server 1 DFSR Staging. For size, it doesn't have to be large. We can just say 20 gigs for now. And finish. And apply. And we're going to do the same exact thing on File 2. Go to our SCSI controller, hard drive, add the virtual disk. Dynamically expanding is okay. File server 2, DFSR staging. You can really call them anything you want, but you just want to make sure that you clearly know what they are when you're configuring them. So if you recall from some of our previous lessons, what we have to do now is we have to go to disk management. And we have to activate that disk. So let's bring it online. Initialize disk. Create our new simple volume. Leave everything as default. We're going to choose the X drive just because anytime I'm creating new drives in a domain, I like to go from bottom to top because these are the more commonly used drives. We're going to call this DFSR staging. And we'll do the same exact thing with our other server. Give it an X as well, and next. Oh, that's fine. We're going to say DFSR staging. All right, and let's verify that they're there. So DFSR staging is present. Same with that one. So now let's go back to engineering and let's look at our memberships. Let's go to properties where it says staging. We can click browse just to verify it's there. And what I like to do is I just like to go ahead and just change it. Oh, go back and apply. It'll be created just so it keeps that same folder structure. We're going to do the exact same thing here. Okay, we can do the same thing for our marketing folder. And we're almost done. Cool. So now that we have everything set, let's go back to our replication logs. Make sure we don't have any errors. Everything still looks okay. Let's give it one final test just to make sure that it's replicating from both areas. So let's try from here. On file 1. And we can watch in real time with what's going on. So if I copy this, we see it appear. Let's do the same thing on this server. And we're good. Everything is working as expected. So that's going to cover it for this lesson. This just wanted to give you a quick overview of how everything works together, as well as how you can troubleshoot by viewing those logs. It's really not that complicated. It just takes a little bit of getting used to and configuring things to where it works optimally in your environment. Everyone's going to have a different scenario, but I hope this was helpful for you. I'd like to thank you for viewing. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you check out my next video. Peace.